What strikes you straight away as being a little odd with all of your experience, Damo?
Yeah, with over 1,000, sitting in front of 1,000 initial consultations with clients trying to build a portfolio, 5 properties within 24 months, big flag. I can't remember any clients at all that I've worked with have purchased 5 properties within a 24-month period. So that's flags out to me, which I'll touch on a little bit more. Hi everyone, I'm Damien.
And I'm Jeremy.
Welcome to our Suburb Data Podcast, where we cover everything from property investing to expert busting. If you're new here, we share our personal and professional experiences from 23 years in the game, so you skip the mistakes we made and go straight to property investment success. And today we're going to be dissecting an email that you received from a unnamed buyer's agent. We won't mention
that's right.
the company.
It's a buyer's advocacy, but well, in my opinion, they're known for embellishment of the truth, shall I say. So let me just read it out. Hey, Jeremy, meet A and B, not their real names. 2 of our lovely clients who were working themselves to the bone in their business, and then they came to us for help with creating a portfolio growth plan to secure a solid financial future. With our help, they've since secured 5 properties within a 24-month period, and these properties produce $76,400 a year in net profit. They've officially reached their financial freedom number, and now they never have to worry about their future. And then there's marketing, what about you? As if we can do the same thing for you. But they can't, because these clients are in a very special circumstance. What strikes you straight away as being a little odd with all of your experience, Damo?
Yeah, with over 1,000, sitting in front of 1,000 initial consultations with clients trying to build a portfolio, 5 properties within 24 months, big flag. I can't remember any clients at all that I've worked with have purchased 5 properties within a 24-month period. So that's flags out to me, which I'll touch on a little bit more. The other thing is 76,400. So to me, they've obviously put a number like this to maybe make it sound like, it's real, but I would definitely question that. And net profit. So that's after tax. So, it could be 110,000 gross, and then net, you got to take the tax away. So to achieve that, red flags for me, and that financial freedom number, I don't know if I agree with that. How about you?
Well, I'm going to assume that all of it is true, but it's an investor that is in an exceptional circumstance. So first of all, five properties within 24 months. So let's say, well, the implication there is they bought one, had some growth, borrowed against that equity, bought the second one, had more growth, bought the next one, and so on. Now, in 24 months, that's quite extreme. So you're going to run into serviceability problems. The typical investor will run into serviceability problems just to get 5 investment properties. So what happens is you buy a property, maybe you get some good capital growth in your first year, maybe it takes a little bit longer. If you are borrowing at an 80% loan-to-value ratio, that means you've got to put down a 20% deposit. Now, you can keep borrowing for 5 properties at that sort of loan-to-value ratio, but that means you need the first property to give you around about 33% growth before you can draw down 20%, enough money to buy the second one of a similar price tag and repeat the process. So the growth has to be absurdly high in order for that to be realistic. What's far more likely is that they could have bought 5 right from the get-go. They were fully cashed up and had a large amount of equity to begin with.
So we're looking at a diagram that can be viewed visually on any of our platforms, but if you have a look, like they could have taken out an equity release potentially. So they've taken out an equity release against their home. So let's say their property is worth $2 million. There's a lot of detail that's left out in this message, but let's say they've released around 1.2 million, and that's going to fund the deposit for each of their 5 properties.
Okay, now to get $1.2 million equity release, I mean, first of all, we're talking about someone who has significant cash flow, well beyond that of the average Australian.
Exactly.
And you said a $2 million property, so they've got a principal place of residence worth $2 million with almost no debt against it. That is very much not like any Australian.
It'd be very rare. Like the probability would be so small. So it'd be definitely an outlier. But the key thing here that like we've just used basic numbers or just examples, but let's say they paid what, $4.8 million roughly for their portfolio for 5 properties from the get-go. Okay, so they've bought these properties, 4.8. Now they've had to borrow all of it. How are you going to fund these properties?
Yeah.
So in this example, we're saying they're borrowing their 80%. So 80% of 4.8 million is about 3.8 million, and that other 1.2 million is maybe an equity release. So they've gone to the bank saying, hey, I want to buy 5 properties. The bank's going, yep, no problems. Here's $1.2 million worth of lending. There's money that sits in an offset, and then when they're ready to purchase those properties, they take that money out of that offset and they fund those. We'll call it 25%, 20% deposit for the property, stamp duty, legal fees, like that other 5%. That's what that accounts for.
Yeah, okay, so that's a significantly sized portfolio, but you have to be in an exceptional position to be able to purchase that much. And then what about the capital growth? To get to a portfolio worth 7.64 million, we've picked that number specifically, but we'll come to that in a minute. But you've got to have some pretty severe capital growth. So we've estimated, what is that, roughly 60% capital growth?
Yeah, roughly 59, 60.
In 2 years.
In 2 years. So they've gone from 4.8 million up to 7.6 million.
And assuming the rent grows at the same rate.
Correct. We have had decent rent growth over the past several years, but interest rates have also doubled.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's had a huge impact
on
cash flows.
It's going to be floundering. Okay, but if this portfolio of $7.64 million is cash flow positive after tax by 1%, so we're talking about you receive some rent, you pay interest on your mortgage, you pay your property manager, you pay insurance, you pay council rates, you pay for repairs and maintenance, and you're still 1% net. Oh, and then you pay tax on that. You're still 1% in front. That gives you 76,400. So that is a pretty extreme position to be in, isn't it?
Very, very extreme.
So what I'm thinking here is
that 1% though, that 1%, I think that would be even very rare with the rates, how high they are.
Yeah. So you could get this sort of 1% post-tax net yield if it was commercial property.
Commercial?
But then what's your deposit? Your minimum deposit for a commercial property, what's it likely to be?
Well, your loan to value ratio is going to be a lot lower, and depending on the lender that you're working with, it's just this amount of lending isn't just for the normal average Australian household.
Yeah, you need to be dual high income earners in this family, or you've got a business which is making a cracking amount of profit.
So my key things here would be the business. So there's not much explanation. How much are they earning from that business? So they might be distributing, maybe the profits are there within the business. They've got higher wages, so they might be paying themselves 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 a year combined. That's one thing that's left out of here, which is again not normal. And sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, so just with that cash flow positive, if it was commercial, then we'd go from a 20% deposit to a 30% deposit, which means they even need more equity. So their principal place of residence might need to be 2.5 mil fully paid off. So it becomes even more extreme. Or you could invest in real estate that has exceptionally high yields. So maybe something like a NDIS or these dual income places, something like that. So it's not impossible to get the 1% post-tax net yield, but the size of the portfolio suggests they had money to begin with, which might have come from what? They won Powerball?
Powerball, potentially. So they've won Powerball that we don't know about. So the lotto, we've got potentially, maybe they're in retirement phase. Maybe they've got access to their super, which is a significant, large sum of money. So they might have gone, okay, they've been able to get all this cash and just buy properties with it. They've taken on no debt whatsoever. I'd say maybe inheritance. I think, they're most probably the main ones.
Yeah, so we don't know these details, but obviously there's something exceptional to their circumstance, because the average Australian is not going to be able to employ these guys and get the same sort of results.
Well, this is a benchmark that I normally like to refer to. So, for example, a couple between that sort of 65 and 84 comfortable retirement net is around 71,000. So that's after the mortgage is paid, or if you're renting, your rent's taken care of. That's pretty much net for your holidays, your living expenses, whatever it might be. 71,000 for a couple, where that's a comfortable lifestyle, or 50,000 for a single, or 51,000 for a single. So again, there's a lot of details that are left out of this email.
And on purpose, I suspect, because that sounds very impressive. If you're the average sort of investor, maybe you're only 40 years old and you're thinking, ooh, can I get 76,400 in net profit a year after just 24 months of investing? Maybe I should engage their services. Actually, what if we had a billionaire approach us and say, hey, I want to buy $100 million portfolio in cash. They've just got cash lying around, so no debt. They invest $100 million, even if it was just a measly 3% gross rental yield. What would that be net if you paid cash? It might be something like, 1%, 1.5%, something like that. So they could be getting $150,000 a year. So we could say in our email newsletter, hey, we just met A and B. They've just retired on $150,000 a year, and they bought 25 properties in 12 months. Now, what I want to know is, what about you?
Well, the thing is, using that 100 million example, I think it would actually be higher. Like, let's say 100 million, 3 million gross, and then you take the tax away. So you might be looking closer to what, maybe 1.5
right
million, because you got to remember, if you've got 100 million, you've got no debt. We're using that. Right. We're using that 1% figure over 1% figure net because they've got debt.
Yeah,
so we're factoring that in the yield number. But if I've just got $100 million sitting in the bank, and I just get, let's say, normally we use 4%. I'd use 4% as like a benchmark gross. But let's say we use 3%. You take your tax away. Let's say it's around that. We'll just say 1.5 to be safe. That's 1.5 million. I could market that, but I had 100 million to start off with.
That's right, yeah. And I think that's what they're doing here with this email marketing. They're deliberately leaving out some very important statistics, some very important situation to begin with, to make it look like anyone can approach them, engage their services and get a similar result, when it's simply not going to happen.
Anything more to add to this one?
This is just your classic real estate BS, and I'd just caution investors that you're going to come across this sort of stuff all the time. Everything's been inflated, embellished, things have been hidden from you. You just need to be aware of these sorts of marketing tricks so that you're not duped.
And I think this is, again, our opinion. Like, we've discussed this over years and years, and we just want to put it on a platform where we can give our opinion on it. And we're not saying that we're right or wrong or whatever it might be. Everyone's got their own opinion, and that's fine. But we just want to make sure that you don't get down about it. Like, you might get this and go, oh, how did you get 7? I'd love to be there, but you're working full time. You've got a family. You've got no time. And it's like, yeah, I'd love to do that. And it's just broken promises. So you pay all this money to a company and then, yep, thank you very much. And you don't hear from them until you're buying that next property. So they just want to see that revenue come in, which is, again, like, we're a business, but we want to try and bring this to our platform where we have an honest approach, and break these articles down from our experiences that we've got.
Yeah. So for this one, just too much left out, too incredible. not going to, it might not be untrue, but it certainly will not be the situation for the average investor.
It'd be good just to see more detail, but how would you go about it? Because at the end of the day, they want to market it, they want to get the business, but how do you know what to believe?
Yeah, and that's what a lot of novice investors that's what a lot of novice investors should be asking themselves.
Always ask questions. We're very big on that, aren't we?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening. To stay updated with our property insights and content, Jez, what should everyone do?
Click like and subscribe.
Like, subscribe, share with the world. See you in our next episode.